So one of the things that I love about John is the role that spirituality plays in his daily life. It's not just that it plays a role in his recovery, it's that it plays a role in every single day in so many different ways in your life. And I want to know if you could talk a little bit about what that looks like for you.
Yeah, so I think that oftentimes we hear that the opposite of addiction is connection. And I think there's a lot about that that's true, but I think that it's not just connecting interpersonally. For me, it's feeling connected spiritually. I think that it is my belief that a lot of the disease of addiction is a bit of a spiritual malady. And it's this disconnectedness. And so the role of spirituality for me, and you had mentioned it during the break as well to talk about like my dailies and things like that. So I'd like to see if I could tie this into the first part of what I talked about, which was that oftentimes my first thought when I woke up in the morning was, oh shit. Like, what's coming today? Am I going to be able to make it today? And I still remember what that feels like. Here's where spirituality comes into play for me. Because it is oftentimes like I wake up in the morning and my head's already chewing on me. You know, and you can, like, you tell me if you relate to this, but it's like you wake up in the morning and it's like your head's, like, the beast is at the foot of your bed and it's like, hey, glad you're awake. Been talking about you for hours. No need to even get out of bed today. And it's off to the running. And so the way spirituality and the way this connection part works for me in the morning is what I do is I immediately, on awakening, I grab something to read that's a little bit spiritual. Something to read more or less that pulls my head out of me for just a second. And then I do my best to connect. And that is through some prayer and meditation. And I remember just barely getting sober, and I called my sponsor early one morning, and I told my sponsor like about the busy day I was having. And my sponsor listened to me for a while. He was good at that. And then he said, well, you know, it says on awakening, you start your day in prayer and meditation. I'm like, oops, today was a busy day. And he goes, well, so let me tell you your rule going forward. He said, I need you to do 30 minutes of prayer and meditation every morning. And he said, unless you have a busy day. And I thought, okay, here's my out. And he said, if you have a busy day, I need you to do an hour. And I'm going to tell you that what's happened in my life is that when I dedicate that time to just getting grounded, what it does is it allows me to go through the day with a lot more peace. I always used to worry about how much sleep I was going to get. I don't even know if I'm going to be tired the next morning. I'm not there yet. And recovery's kind of taught me that, you know what, I can just show up and I can work through things. Instead of decide it's going to be good or bad, I get to experience it. And it's back to what we talked about at the beginning, which is I get to be here with you guys right now.
I love that. What are some of those things that you read daily?
I read daily reflections. I read 24-hour day book. I read Emmett Fox. I read out of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Just anything spiritual. Anything that can lift me and kind of pull my head out of what's going on up here, because that's where I can find peace, is when, because I'm really good at solving all the wreckage of my future. So I'm really good at just cleaning that up all day long. And the other thing my sponsor always used to tell me is a Mark Twain quote, which is, I'm an old man and I've seen a lot of trouble come my way, most of which never happened. And I spent so much time in my head figuring out this future, where when I get to be here and now, when I get to be part of this, and back to the moment, that's where I can spiritually connect. And so for those who are big book folks, if you go to an AA meeting, they read How It Works. And part of How It Works, it says, Remember that we deal with alcoholism, cunning, baffling, and powerful, and without help it is too much for us. But there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. And when I'm thinking 3 months from now, there's no connection with God. When I'm running back in my head on the stuff I should have done better 10 years ago, I have no space for him. But when I get to be here now, I get to bring him in.
I love that. I think that it's important for us in recovery, especially when recovery is new or we're in treatment. We talk about doing daily habits that really can ground you for the day, get you in a different headspace, put other things first before yourself. And so I just would encourage and challenge you, if you're not doing that, start today, start tomorrow morning. Find something that you can do that would help you connect. If you're an AA Big Booker, read it. If you are a scripture reader, read them. If there's other enlightening things that help you feel connected, make time for those, because that will change the course of your whole day. And all you have to do is get up a half an hour earlier, 5 minutes earlier, whatever that looks like. Putting that first will set a different tone for your life.
Yeah, and if your day's going bad, start it over.
Yeah.
I do that all the time. It's like 11:30 in the morning, and I'm like, well, need a do-over today. Okay, God, how do we figure this one out? And it changes everything for me. And man, some days I've got to do that 3 or 4 times. But what it does is it just gets me regrounded and reconnected. I struggled, I struggled with this whole God concept initially because I had this really religious concept of what God needed to be. And I felt like I had to get right to come right. I felt like once I got good enough, then I could ask for help. And I was a guy, so part of my education, I did a study abroad in Jerusalem, and I was there for 5 months. And again, back to what I said initially, way overeducated for my level of intelligence. Like, not that smart of a dude, but I went there, and my sponsor asked me what God was. And so I was kind of looking at him, and I said, okay, I got this. Like, what do you want? Like Judaism, Islam, Christianity? Like, I've got God. And I started defining God for this guy. And Bill looked at me and just started laughing. And I was kind of expecting this gold star or something. He said, man, you don't understand God at all. He said, so why don't you change the wording in the step 3 to make a decision, turn my will and my life over the care of God as I don't understand him. Because he said, the key is not that you understand God, it's that you realize God could and would if you were sought. And he said, John, be a seeker. And from that day on, I have sought this connection. It's the most important thing I have in my life today. It keeps me going through this world with peace. Peace I never thought I could have. It allows me to do stuff like this. You guys may not know how nervous I am, but I know how nervous I am. But when I bring God into it, I can walk through it. And I don't have to wait for the fear to go away. It allows me to do it in the face of fear. And I tell people that I have this huge God in my life today. And I don't even know how well I understand it. But I know this God understands me. Because I can feel it. Because I get to walk through this world with peace. And it's a peace that I've never had before. And to me, that is that has been the true gift of recovery.
I love that. The other day in group, if you were in day group, one of the things we did...
I wasn't.
I know.
Okay.
It's okay, I'll tie it in. We did these I am poems. And we wrote all these different things that I am. I am strong. I am resilient. I am an overcomer. and we wrote different things. And I was impressed and surprised at how seriously people took that, and the vulnerability that they shared. It was really beautiful. And I wanted to ask you, what are your I ams?
I've got a couple of them. And it's an important part of my life. I actually say them every morning. I'm spiritual. I am enough. I am peaceful and serene. I'm grateful for God's abundance, and I'm with God and God is with me. And I do those in my head a few times, and I'll tell you when my world starts going sideways, which happens a lot, those are quick, easy things that I can repeat, and getting that mindset changes what's going on in my life. It changes my ability to react to it. And so those are, and I believe them.
I can tell.
I believe them.
One of the things that I love about Arena Talks is that, yes, we bring amazing speakers who either are in the recovery world or they're just badass at other things in their life. But one thing I'm struck with over and over again by the people that we share with you guys is every single one of them is living intentionally. Every single one of them looks for the heart in their life and they lean into that. And they are very conscious about that connection that they have, other than being connected with themselves. So I hope you're hearing, I mean, there are some really good nuggets of wisdom, and I hope your heart is open to hearing some of that tonight. One of my favorite stories that you always share when we're talking is this analogy that you use for playing either chess or playing checkers. And you use that story, like you use that analogy a lot about whatever it is that we're talking about that you have going on in your life. So talk about why that's important and what that means to you, you know, symbolically, all that.
Okay, this will be good because I don't know if this will make sense to anybody. Because it's an analogy that I came up with on my own, which should tell you, like, it's going to be, like, if it makes sense to anybody, will you please just nod somewhere along the way so I can tell that it's landing, because this is how my world makes sense to me today. I felt like my life for 43 years was this complicated chess match where I was trying to figure out what other people were going to do, what I needed to say, how I was going to get this. I'd wake up in the morning and I'd try to map out my day and plan how this day was going to work out. And at the age of 43, I finally realized I'm not very good at chess. So I wasn't doing this life very well. And so the way that I do it today is I just show up and I play checkers. I've got a friend in back who's with me, and it's listen and do. And that's what I do. So I look at it like it's God's board. And I just simply have to do whatever's in front of me to be done. I've got a couple little principles that I use in my life. When I get to be an honest person today, that's actually a big deal for me. I get to care about people. I get to see how much I try to put into this world instead of what I take out of it. And that's just me playing checkers. And so I show up and I don't know what's going to happen in life. And it turns out it's actually really none of my business. What's my business is what I do right now. Because what I do right now shapes my future. C.S. Lewis has this quote that I absolutely love, which says you cannot go back and change the beginning. But you can start wherever you're at and change the ending. And that's what I'm trying to do today. So I play checkers. I keep my life really simple. I show up for it. The people Like I have people in my life I care about today that I get to love with my whole heart. I have like even someone who's in this room tonight, who I just met tonight for the first time, but yet tons of admiration for this woman. And so I get to have like real connection with people. And it's a beautiful thing. And it's part of that, it's part of the difference of isolation. It's part of getting out of this disease. You get to like experience that. And so I'm a simple-minded guy, like not that smart. That should be super obvious to you at this point. So I just show up and I play checkers. I bring God into it. I ask for some direction. And turns out like he seems to answer that only every time.
So maybe tonight as you go to bed or in the morning when you're taking that 5 minutes that we just talked about, maybe that's a time that you could ask yourself, inventory yourself, thinking about the things that are going on in your life and ask yourself, am I trying to play checkers or am I trying to play chess?
And are you any good at chess? I wasn't.
I don't think any of us are. That's right. I mean, maybe you're good at that. We're not really talking about chess.
Yeah, if you think you're good at it, talk to your counselor.
But I love that idea, and that's something that we can ask ourselves throughout the day. I speak for myself, but I think I speak for a lot of people in here. I can get into overthinking, overanalyzing, over-worrying, over-planning, that future tripping times 10 about things in my life and trying to figure it out and sort it out and know what's going to happen. And what I know for sure is that my life is unmanageable. My life is unmanageable not just because of alcohol. Alcohol was a manifestation of that unmanageability, but my life is unmanageable. And the only one that can manage that is God. And the God how you understand him to be. And I love that. It's just about playing checkers, not about chess.
Can I give an analogy? I like to be able, when I talk, to tell you guys about the best night of my life. And it's part of getting me out of the way. So I'll tell, like, if I can. It seems to make sense right now, but I had been sober about 8 or 9 months. I was working a job just trying to get back on my feet. Like when I got sober, I was unemployable. Like I don't even know if unemployable cuts it. And I had been sober for Christmas and the holidays and everybody's birthday. And the one birthday I had left, it was my twins' birthday. And Molly and Charlie were getting ready to turn 15 years old. And they wanted to have their birthday party at Classic Skate. And I don't know if anyone, I heard a laugh, so I don't know if anyone in here has been to Classic Skate. If you have, like for me, Classic Skate quite literally is my version of hell. It's like Chuck E. Cheese with a roller skating rink, but actually I think hell might be funner than Classic Skate. And we were going to Classic Skate that night, and these guys were turning 15, and I had no money to buy them a gift. And what I could afford was 3 boxes of Little Caesars pizza. And I remember pulling up to Classic Skate, and I remember just thinking how bad this night was going to be. And I just ducked my head, and I've got this little prayer I say sometimes, and if you're looking for a prayer, you're welcome to borrow this one. And it is just simply, God, they tell me you're not going to give me more than I can handle. But I think you got a little bit too much faith in your boy right now because I'm not handling this very well. Could sure use your help. And I walked into Classic Skate. And I put on roller skates, and I'm 6'3". I'm not very coordinated. So you kind of just picture this giraffe going around in strobe lights like it was a disaster. But But I did it for about 3 hours. And I went home that night, and I was going to bed, and my son Charlie came and woke me up. And Charlie said, "Dad, thank you. That was the best birthday I've ever had." And then about 20 minutes later, my daughter Molly came in and she said, "Dad, thank you. That was the best birthday I've ever had." All I had was 3 boxes of Little Caesars pizza. Those of you who had heard the first of my story heard that my wife was pregnant with twins when I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. I was never supposed to see these guys turn 1. And when they turned 15, it was the first time I was sober on their birthday. I didn't even realize it till they had left the room. I didn't even realize that I got the chance to be present. That I got the opportunity to be with them. You know, I always wanted to be a dad. But when I got sober, it allowed me to do the stuff that dads get to do. And for me, a lot of it is just being willing to show up. I show up, and the other thing that my sponsor always used to tell me was, "John, like, take your higher power with you. It's not checking in the morning and checking out. It's like in the moment you ask for help." And I got an opportunity to be a part of this world that night. And it is the most amazing thing to me that at 47 years old, I'm sitting here and I'm telling you the best night of my life was at Chuck E. Cheese.
Classic skate.
Yeah, classic skate. Shit, one and the same. Yeah. But that's what recovery does for me. It allows me to see the things that I'd always missed before. And I didn't even realize I was missing them.
The other thing I would love for you to share is about your Costco job. And the reason I want you to share that is because I was talking with somebody earlier this week who, we always have a lot of pride, right? We always think, "Oh, this job is stupid. Oh, this job is beneath me. Like, I used to do this. Like, now now they want me to do this. That feels so backwards," and we miss out on this opportunity to practice humility. And I think that's the biggest lesson. So I hope, could you share that?
Yeah, Costco. So Costco was, I was leaving treatment. I was leaving residential, and the therapist I had told me, he said, "John, if you want to stay sober, you're going to go get a job at Costco." And I thought, what? So I spent some time and I explained to him how I had these degrees. Like, yeah, it was back when I used to think I was smart. And I know better now. And he just looked at me and shook his head and he said, "John, you're not listening to me." He said, "If you want to stay sober, you're going to go get a job at Costco." And what he meant by that was that I would get a job at a place where I could check in, check out, leave work there. And I got a job at Costco. And it was probably the best job I've ever had in my life. And I'll tell you why. The place I was going to treatment, Costco scheduled me during the IOP. And so I thought to myself, great, now I don't have to go to IOP. Like, it was their suggestion. Like, why would I have to? And so I go in and I talk with the therapist, and the therapist says, "No, John, you're going to have to go tell them you need these nights off or quit." And it'd been so long since I had a place that wanted me to show up for work. And I was scared. And I went into Costco and I told them I needed a couple nights off. And they said, "We're going to get you with the general manager." And so I went and I sat with the general manager. And my automatic is like, what am I going to tell her? Like, because the truth's not going to work. And I was a guy who just had such a hard time being honest up until getting sober. And I used to, one of the ways I describe that is like, if I thought Hazel liked McDonald's and I went to Chick-fil-A on the way here and Hazel asked me where I ate, I'd say, oh, McDonald's. We both like McDonald's. Like, if the truth would work, I'd still give you a lie. And I did that for so long. And so I had to get out of that. And I had to learn to be an honest person. And I went into Costco and I met with Sandy. And Sandy said to me, John, I understand you need these nights off and we never give new people time off. Why is that? And I took my higher power with me and I took a breath and I said, Sandy, I am an alcoholic. I need to go to these classes so I can learn how to be a father, a husband, an employee. So if you could work with me, I'd appreciate it. And she got up from behind the desk and she gave me a hug and she said, we will never schedule you those nights. She goes, no one ever comes in here and is honest with me. She goes, I can tell you're honest. I'm not a morning person. Some people might be, but Costco scheduled me at 4 a.m. every morning. And that's just absurd. And so what I'd do is I'd set my alarm for 3:03 a.m. because 3 sounded too early. But 3:03, 3:03 I could pull off. But one of the things that happened is every morning when that alarm would go off, I'd hit the alarm and I'd just think, you know what, John, you can do this today. Just show up today. I'm the type of guy that if you would have put that on the wall in 6 months of 4 a.m., I wouldn't have shown up day one. Because I know there's never a way to pull that off. But when I just did Costco one day at a time, I was never late for work. I don't remember having a bad day. Costco was also right by the recovery club. It was like 3 blocks away, and we had one family car, and we had 3 drivers, my 17-year-old, my wife, myself, and I was lowest on the totem pole. I don't even know if I had a set of keys to the car. I think they both did. So I always had to walk from Costco up to the club. So I remember one morning getting ready to leave the club, and I was hungry, so I ordered a hot dog and a drink. $1.62. And I remember because I was standing with all my friends that I worked with, and they went to ring me up, and I put in my debit card. And the guy told me I had insufficient funds. I remember for $1.62, and I remember pulling the debit card out, and I put my backpack over my shoulder, and I just thought, man, forget recovery. Like, forget this. I felt about this big. And I walked out, and that thought, again, take your higher power with you. And I just said, God, I could sure use your help. I started walking up to the club, and a couple of things happened. I crossed the street, and I was by the America First Credit Union, and I heard 3 birds in the tree. I looked up at the mountains, and my entire life, they'd never been so pretty. The sky was bright blue, and I had this thought that, John, you would have given anything to have one day sober. And now you're getting ready to throw that away over a hot dog. And I just suddenly got to be so grateful for the life I had. So Costco taught me a lot. I got more Costco stories, but I don't think that's where we want to go. But no, I loved my job at Costco. Stopped playing chess. I just did what was in front of me to be done.
I love that because, sometimes the only jobs that we get when we're in early recovery are kind of shitty. It's not stuff that you really want to be doing. But there's a lesson in what you just said, which is I just have to show up today. I just have to be humble. And we're never where we're going to be in this moment forever, right? Everything passes. And we just have to be humble enough.
It's my favorite scripture quote. I don't know if you guys read the scriptures at all, but my favorite quote is, and it came to pass. Like it starts in almost all the scriptures, but like here's the thing, none of it came to stay. Whatever you're in the middle of, it came to pass, and it will pass. And so it's been a great learning lesson.
Love that. What's your last thought that you want to leave with us? That last thing in your heart.
I can feel you guys, and I appreciate you holding space for me tonight. I know that I love you. I'm grateful for you for being here. I know there's a way to do this. I don't know if you're in recovery. I don't know if you're supporting someone in recovery. There's a place in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous that says, with this disease goes an annihilation of all things worthwhile in life, and it engulfs all whose lives touch the sufferers. And we've got a tendency, all the people that are close to us are engulfed in this disease. And that was part of my twins not saying goodbye. That was part of the whole process. When I got home from treatment, my daughter started calling me the douche. I was 14. She was 14, and I'm like, and I said, Molly, it's entirely inappropriate. She goes, Dad, it just means jerk. So we went to Google and looked it up, and she's like, ooh, Dad, that's bad. So then she said, you know what, Dad, you're skadoosh. I'm like, that's not any better. Okay, and I was skadoosh for months. And then I became John. And today I get to be called Dad. I know there's a way to do it. I've not seen anything broken bad enough that God can't fix it. And it's just a matter of being willing to get out of the way and bringing Him into it. The other thing I can tell you, especially for those in recovery, is that I'm proud of you. I know how hard it is to come in and get these seats. And the fact that you're here tonight showing up for yourself says an awful lot. And then I guess the last thing, if I'm leaving, is I'm a big 12-step guy, and the first word of the first step is we. I could not get myself sober, but we seem to be able to keep me sober. So I'm not leaving us. Make sure you find people you can talk to. Make sure you find people who can support you. There's a way to do it. And if you don't know, start with a prayer, because God will show you. He showed me, and I thought my world was falling apart. And I didn't realize that He was bringing it together.